Hello people of YouTube, my name is JD Shadow. Let's talk a little bit about Guild Wars 2. Let's talk a little bit about the Heart of Thorns expansion and the Guild Halls reveal, and more importantly, the pre-purchase option of Heart of Thorns and the pricing model and what exactly is going on in this particular scenario, because I saw and heard the same thing everybody else did. Colin Johansson came on stage at the PC gaming show at E3 and he showed off Guild Halls, which will be a subject of a upcoming special report, provided that I actually hold myself up to that. But near the end of his portion of the talk show like PC gaming show, he said that the pre-purchase option for Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns expansion pack is going right about, look at watch, now, and drops mic and leaves. So, we go on to the buy.guildwars2.com site in order to look at just what exactly the pre-purchase option is, and here is where the controversy begins. Let's first talk about what the standard edition includes. First of all, it is $50, $49.99, and it includes the Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns expansion and the Guild Wars 2 core game. Pay attention to the words Guild Wars 2 core game. That will be very important later on. Let's get to the deluxe edition, $74.99. This includes the standard Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns expansion and the core game, an additional character slot, pay attention, that's going to be pretty important later on too, miniature Reverend Ritlock, which is pretty awesome, the Reverend Finisher, Mordremont's Bane Guild Hall decoration, and the Heart of Thorns glider skin, which is going to be very important for the upcoming expansion, seeming as if we're going to get gliders to fly around in the new zone. Now, the Ultimate Edition, which is for $99.99, read as in $100, you're going to get everything we just talked about, plus 4,000 gems, which is a $50 value for half of that, which is, if you are a big gem store fanatic, you are probably going to be wanting that. All versions give you access to all beta weekends, while the Deluxe and Ultimate Edition will net you an exclusive title in-game. Now, there are some controversies that are stemming from this, and I want to address them because when I first saw this, I too got a little bit salty. Not as much as some people though, some people who got completely out of control about it. It doesn't warrant that much of a concern, but it warrants enough of concern in order to say something about this, because I do believe that while there are some concerns that are unfounded, there are some concerns that are validated and are legit, and they are concerns that a normal, everyday consumer would have. First of all, ArenaNet did not explain this all too well. Their FAQ is still giving way more questions than answers here. The main concern that many people have when they saw this is the fact that you cannot get the expansion without getting another Guild Wars 2 account. That's what it seems like, and that's the main concern. There is no option right now to get just the expansion without getting another account. And this has left many people dismayed. They say, okay, I may not want to get the expansion. Now I've seen the pricing and what exactly this is going to include and what I have to do in order to be eligible to have the expansion in your hands. Now, let me first get to a pricing of an expansion. We do have the precedent of a World of Warcraft expansion, which is usually $30, $40. Now, keep in mind, in fact, that WoW does have a subscription charge every month of $14.99, $15, or whatever you want to call it. So they have that going for it, so you're paying that in addition to the expansion packs, and they don't give you the core games in these expansion packs. They might do a battle chest in some form of fashion. Lately, WoW has been giving you the Burning Crusade when you buy the base game as a part of that base game, which is pretty freaking awesome, but keep in mind that we're already to the 5th expansion, Warlords of Draenor, and each price of entry is not going to be very cheap. It's going to be kind of steep when you're wanting to get into the more recent content. So that is a feather in ArenaNet's cap in that sense, is that they are giving you the core game plus the Heart of Thorns expansion pack, and for that matter, the core game by itself is no longer available on the online store of Guild Wars 2. There is only this particular pre-purchase model that gives you the expansion and the core game. So this is more geared towards some people who have not gotten the base base game yet. And this is a good deal if you have not gotten the game yet. This is about the price of the Digital Deluxe Edition of Guild Wars 2, the ones that give you the mini and all that. And I have to say that that might be a good deal if they include the Digital Deluxe Edition perks that you get through getting the Digital Deluxe Edition with this new pricing model that they have. I don't know if someone can actually tell me whether or not this would include what's in the Digital Deluxe Edition of the base game of Guild Wars 2. I will be more than happy to annotate this video. But then comes the people who have already bought the base game and have played it for a while. This is the concern, the valid concern that many people have, is it becoming a notion that you cannot buy the expansion without buying another account of the core game? Because in my case, in my personal case, I currently have two accounts. I have my main account, and then I have an EU account. You can do that if you so desire. That way you can play with more people, you join more guilds, you do all sorts of different things with that. If you do this, and if you take this option, which is seemingly the only option right now, you're always going to have an account, provided that you have to buy a separate serial for each different account that you have. There's always going to be an account that does not have the expansion pack tacked onto it. Now, there could be a slight possibility, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's going to be improbable, that you could have one serial number to work with every single account you have. Now, I brought this up on our Peachy's stream when she was streaming a after party after the E3 thing was all said and done, and her comment was that it seems unlikely that that's going to be the case, but I'm going to hold out hope, and hopefully read in that here's all these concerns and here's that possibility. But that does open the door for piracy, that does open the door for all sorts of bad things happening, unless they have a way to go about making that possible. Given that though, there needs to be an option, there has to be an option in order for you to just get the expansion without having to buy another account. Now, it is a terrific value, I am not going to debate that. It is a terrific value to have another account and get the expansion all at the same time. But what if you don't want that? What if you are hell-bent on just getting the expansion only? Right now, there is no other option. And to many people, if this particular expansion was just the expansion, that's where you get the valid concern that perhaps it would be a lot cheaper if you didn't have the core game attached to that. Now, on the official Guild Wars 2 forums, Regina Brunorbra, I apologize if I got that name completely butchered, content marketing team lead, said in response to Axel's post, quote, "To clarify, $50 is the price of the expansion. We included the core game as a free bonus to make it easier for new players to get into it." This was posted about 13 hours ago as of the making of this video. Now, the reason a lot of people seem jaded about the price point in this sense is because they're treating the expansion as a full brand new title that has never been released and has never gotten an expansion before and is getting a physical copy that you have to get through a store and not as a digital release, which would be kind of cheaper, seeing as though they don't have to go through any middlemen in order to get the physical copy on store shelves. And there's still that whole thing about needing to buy a new account, apparently, in order to get the expansion all on itself. And I have to believe that there's still that possibility that including the core game is raking up the price of it. Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't get the expansion. I'm not saying that at all. Of course I'm going to get the expansion. I've been waiting for this for quite a while, and the way that guild halls are looking right now, it seems to be worth the price of admission. But this is a steep price of admission. Even when you factor in all the stuff that's going to be included in this, the Reverend, the guild halls, Stronghold, the new zones, everything included in it, even when you take into account of all of that, this is a steep price point, and there's no denying that. There is no denying. There is no trying to get around it. It is a steep price point, period. At least when you consider that games like Star Wars The Old Republic, their recently announced Knights of the Fallen Empire is going to be available for free for all subscribers. Now, I'm not quite sure about how The Old Republic does its pricing model. I've heard it was sort of unfair to some people, and that's a very rare case in which a company would do that for its consumers, but that's really good consumer goodwill on the part of BioWare, and it's kind of generous when you think about it. But when you talk about WoW, when you talk about all those other MMOs and expansions in general of single-player games, I don't know, it does seem like $50 is quite high, unless you can back it up with content, unless you can back it up with substantial content in order to justify the price tag. And that is what people are expecting for ArenaNet to do, and I think that is a valid concern for ArenaNet to have to justify the $50 price point, especially when you're saying that the core game is going to be in there for free for new players. Not knocking against new players or anything like that, but I don't know if there's many people who are going to buy into that explanation. I think there's more people who are going to think that tacking on the core game is going to jack up the price. Now, is that a fair concern to have? To some people, perhaps, because they do feel a little dismayed about some ways that publishers have screwed them over in terms of pricing anymore. One company says one thing and then turns around and does the complete opposite. We've seen how EA and Activision have been. We've seen stuff like Day One DLC and DLC for things that are already on the disc. People like Capcom have done that before. They have felt burned before, and you cannot blame these people for feeling a little dismayed about a $50 price point for an expansion pack, because they have felt burned before by several game companies who have done everything they can possibly do in order to nickel and dime people because they feel that profits are more important than consumer goodwill. Now, I don't expect ArenaNet to be one of those people. I don't expect ArenaNet to be Activision or EA or Ubisoft or anybody like that. I don't expect them to be like that. I expect them to be able to justify a $50 price point. They've done a good job with the game so far. They've done a terrific job. So I don't expect ArenaNet to be like EA or Activision or Ubisoft. I don't expect them to be like that. I expect for them to have that justification. I think they might have that justification. But you have to explain to people why you're justifying that price point. And they did not do that well. They did not explain it well. And they did not explain it stuff with the physical versus digital versions of the game. Is there going to be a physical version of the game made available at all? What type of physical and digital versions are actually going to be there? I've had it explained to me a few times. I'm still kind of confused. That shows you that they didn't really explain this well. They need somebody to just come out and just say all these details right up front, because right now people are confused, people are a little bit dismayed, people are a little bit jaded, a little bit salty, although I do agree with a lot of people that they are more salty than they probably should be. They need to calm down and let's explain what exactly is going on. But at the same time, I feel as though some explanation needs to be addressed. These concerns have to be addressed, and they have to be addressed right away, because a lot of people are seeing this as major deal breakers. They're seeing the $50 price point as a major deal breaker. They're seeing this as a reason to quit the game, which is a kind of a overblown reaction, kind of disproportionate reaction in my estimation. But there are valid concerns about the price point and why it has to be $50. I think there's a valid concern there, because many people are not buying the fact that they're just offering the core game for free as a added bonus for buying the expansion. Something tells me that they are probably gonna have it a bit cheaper before the launch. Something tells me that they are going to address this concern, and I think ArenaNet will address this concern. I don't see them as a company that will just nickel and dime consumers. I think that their pricing model, I think their microtransaction model is very fair. I think there's a lot that you can do with that. I think they've done a good job with the gem store. I think they've done a good job with all of that other stuff that they have put into place. So I do expect for them to faithfully come out and say, hey, we messed up, or there's some things that need clarification. There's some justification to why we made this as expensive as it is. And we understand that people might be a little bit dismayed by this whole scenario that we have set for ourselves, and it's kind of their fault because they didn't explain it that well. And this is kind of overshadowed everything else we've heard about the guild halls, which is absolutely phenomenal, by the way. That is overshadowing a very good reveal. One of the best reveals for a feature to an MMO I've seen in recent years. Not even World of Warcraft, not even Blizzard did that well when they revealed stuff about garrisons and that, and we had to pull their arms to hell and back in order to even give us that sort of compromise for flying bounds. Thank you very much for that, by the way, Blizzard. You certainly have taken a step in the right direction there. This price point should not be overshadowing the tremendous reveal for what is to be a tremendous feature of Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. This should not be. And while I can understand that some people are blowing it out of proportion, there is legit concern. And I just want to make sure that people are aware of the concerns that I might have or that someone else might have. And it's not to bash the company for doing this. I have no doubt ArenaNet's going to do the right thing here. I have no doubt that ArenaNet's going to at least justify the price point. I have no doubt that people are going to end up buying the expansion for how much it is, unless it is a ridiculous price point. Like, if it's $100 just to get the base game, I can understand that. I can understand that everybody's gonna be a little bit dismayed about that. And by the way, please do not blame the content creators for what's going on here. They did a tremendous job with the E3 pre and post game show. They did a tremendous job doing that, and I commend them for it. And yes, they did criticize ArenaNet. Bog Otter, Aura PG, Gabe, and MMO Inks, they did a tremendous job, but they also said some things about this price point. Although they may not be as I am to the whole thing, they did criticize ArenaNet for it. This is not bashing a company, this is not bashing anybody. This is raising what could be valid concerns, fair or otherwise, to a company that might need to explain things a little bit better. That's all we're asking for them, and to justify a price point. That's what we love to have, and I'm pretty sure that's what ArenaNet would want us to do, to address those concerns if there is some issues, to bring them up. And that's an issue that I feel as though needs to at least be addressed. Again, some people are blowing the $50 price point out of proportion. They are going way overboard with the reaction to it, but at the same time, there are valid concerns. Let's separate the people who are just being salty for the sake of being salty, or just because they're being quote-unquote whiny, from the people who are legitimately concerned and legitimately confused by the whole thing because they didn't explain it well. I think they need to answer all questions as fairly and as accurately as they possibly can, and they need to find a way in order to offer just the expansion to those people who have already got the base game and don't need another account or don't want another account. It is a deal breaker to a good bit of people, me not being one of those people, by the way. So yeah, you got to address that arena. You have to make sure that people are aware of why this is costing $50 for an expansion, because right now not a lot of people are buying the fact that you're just giving the core game out for free when you buy the expansion. I don't think many people are buying into that scenario, so justify the $50 price point. I think it might be easy to do so without trying to say that you're just offering the core game there for free, because in this climate where people have been burned by other companies before, when they see a price tag like that for expansion, they might say, wait a minute, I'm suspicious about this. And you can't really blame them because they've been burned before by other game companies. Or I think some things are overblown, some things are pretty valid and should be addressed. And really, if this is the only thing that people are very concerned about the price point and not about anything else, ArenaNet did do a damn good job of selling this thing to just about everybody. Just address this one concern, ArenaNet, and you will probably be good to go. It is just sad to see this overshadow what was a very good reveal. My name is JD Shadow, and that just happened.